Hey everyone, it's Selwen here. Let's finish off the decay with some blood. Now blood decay, much like Unholy, much like Frost, is looking pretty much positive, which is awesome to be honest with you. So all of this starts with our unpruned abilities. So we're getting Leechborn. Leechborn as a blood decay, it's even more useful than Unholy and Frost. We're getting Leech, which is awesome for blood, and we also are being immune to Charm, Fear, and Sleep. Much like an Icebound Fortitude is making us immune to stuns, and much like Death's Advance is making us immune to movement effects and knockbacks. So pretty much all these three abilities, in combination with each other, are making the decays an unstoppable force. Then we're getting Anti-Magic Zone, which is pretty self-explanatory how good this is for a tank. And then we're also getting Raised Dead, which is our little ghoul from the old days as a decay, which is also providing us with Sacrificial Pact, which is a 25% self-heal. Also does a little bit of damage, but the most important thing about this ability is that it is a self-heal. Yes, if blood decays couldn't heal themselves as crazy as they already do, this is making us even more crazy for a big on-demand self-heal. Then, on top of all of this, we're also getting Rune Tap baseline. So we're not only getting all this crazy self-healing, we now also have this damage reduction buff, essentially, to help us mitigate damage. So now we're not only bound by self-healing and bound by death strikes, we can safely resort to some nice uses of Rune Tap. Awesome to have that baseline. It was just bothersome to have it, change your talents to go specifically into Rune Tap for a specific fight. This way, it's always there. You can always use it. Awesome. Then we also getting Blood Tap back. Now, Blood Tap is not a huge deal. I personally like the ability. It gives me something else to click outside of just Heart Strikes and Marans and Death Strikes and Blood Boils, right? It's just something that I'm going to do naturally, throughout our quote-unquote rotation to just give us more runes, right? You can use it to fish for runes, you can use it naturally on cooldowns and stuff like that, and is a minor skillful based ability to maximize your runes and in turn runic power and in turn your mitigation. Awesome as well, right? Not a big deal, but awesome. We also getting a Death Coil, which has a very niche use, maybe to like tag a target far away, but even then the runic power is way too expensive to waste on a Death Coil that could otherwise go for a Death Strike, right? But still, it's nice to have it back, so that's very nice. You also have Chains of Ice, which is also very good because you get a really strong slow and you're not bound by just having Hard Strike, which is a very minimal movement reduction. And I can think of so many ways that Chains of Ice would be so amazing in blood in dungeons. So, talents. Now in talents, we got a couple of changes as well. Some talents switched places. So for example, our first tier right here, where we had a Rune Strike, we now have Tombstone. I like the idea of Tombstone, right? I do like the idea of Tombstone, but I hate that it conflicts with the tier 3 right here, the third row. Because the third row, which we also have a new talents that we're going to talk about, is basically emphasizing the idea that you should always be at 5 or more Bone Shield charges, right? So you get the benefits of runic power, or you get the benefits of HP, or you get the benefits of the heal of this new talent. And Tombstone is going to consume that. It's going to overrule some of these effects for the most part, right? So I don't like that it conflicts with this, and I don't like that it's providing you with a shield to, absorb damage and runic power, which you can use for an emergency death strike, but it's taking away a part of your mitigation. So that's why I don't like about Tombstone. It feels that it's conflicting with the spec, it's conflicting with talents and stuff like that. It is a little bit better in this row, because in this row you get Heartbreaker, which is giving you more runic power. It's more useful for multi-target, so you get more runic power out of your AoEs, your cleaves rather, of Death and Decays and Heart Strikes. So you're probably going to choose that. You got Blood Drinker, which is more useful when you go single target, or you just want an extra big healing ability or a damaging ability since it hits really hard. And Tombstone is basically if you want to go full on defensive. Okay, so I get the talent switching here. It kind of makes sense if you're going to make those decisions, but personally I do not like how Tombstone works. Then we get Rapid Decomposition. This talent was changed as well slightly. It's basically was buffed to also provide your blood plagues to leech more health, 50% more health. Now this is number stuff, but in general, the way that I've tested it, it does make a difference. Like when you have a lot of blood plagues going, it is a lot more healing going towards you. So this in dungeons, in Torghast, which is awesome by the way, as a bloody guy, is really, really awesome. But this could make a big difference in dungeons. Now, will we take this over Hemostasis, which is basically killing this entire tier? Well, we shall see. It's kind of number stuff, but I do like that they buffed Rapid Decomposition to make it a little bit more meaningful, especially since one of our most awesome Covenant abilities is based on Death and Decay, so this will buff that ability. Consumption was nerfed to only cleave, strike up 8 enemies, which goes hand in hand with the AoE nerf that is going on in Shadowlands, but I don't really get Consumption. I mean, I loved Consumption when it was a baseline ability in Legion, but outside of Legion, it doesn't really have a place in our talents. I mean, there's really never a situation where I go out of my way to pick this ability. It's kind of sad. I would love to see this ability back to being a baseline because it was such a cool ability to press. Anyway, third tier we get Relish in Blood. So like I said before, this third tier is emphasizing the use, or rather the gameplay of you being high on Bone Shield charges. So Relish in Blood is a new one, which provides your Crimson Scourge proc a heal when you use Death and Decay, and immediately you gain 10 runic power. So it's essentially giving you the runic power that you would spend on a single rune. Now, I like it because it's giving you extra healing, and I like the runic power that you gain. The problem with this is that when you get the proc, it's not always when you need a heal. Okay? So you might get a proc and you might be at full health, and this talent goes completely to waste. This is the issue I have with it. For the most part, it works fine, but in a lot of situations when you get the proc is not when you necessarily want to get the healing, and you want to, you want the damage of Death and Decay to Art Strike Cleave, stuff like that. So it doesn't always works as the way it's intended. So then on this tier we get Mark of Blood, also changed places, and I think it's better here. I mean, Mark of Blood, it's a cool ability, right? It's just giving you healing per auto attacks, but it was never picked because the other talents were just that much more powerful. But since these talents here are kind of situational, so for example, this one you're going to take generally if you're facing tough content, right? And you're going to face Anti-Magic Barrier if you're facing tough spell damage, right? Mark of Blood kind of feels a place where magic damage isn't really an issue, and you're not going to be receiving big hits where Will of the Necropolis will work. So you can go Mark for Blood and just get a little bit of extra healing going on. So I think in this row, it fits better. Well, my game just crashed while I was recording this, which is not nice at all, so excuse me for the weird cut there, but I was going to talk about Ferocious rather. So Ferocious did got a buff. It's now providing 20% extra healing, which is pretty cool. Now on this tier, it's basically just a healing tier, which is nice. So on top of this, you get the choice of going for Death Pact. Now Death Pact is pretty powerful, but you also get a little Kiss Curse effect. But that in combination with Sacrificial Pact, it does feel a little bit over too powerful in terms of our just on-demand self-healing that we're getting in Shadowlands. So they might nerf that or maybe combine the abilities. So if you go Death Pact, you cannot have Sacrificial Pact. But this tier in general, I think is pretty nice. You get Ferocious, which is more of like sustained throughout self-healing through Leech, something that you want to keep up. You get Death Pact, which is something big on demand, and you get Bloodworms, which is something completely passive that you don't have to worry about. So I do like this tier a lot. And then on the last one, nothing has changed. Bone Storm was a little bit nerfed, now only hits 8 targets, not all. Again, this goes hand in hand with the nerf of nerfing AoE abilities to minimize AoE in Mythic Plus. So this doesn't make a huge deal in normal situations, but just letting you know, that is indeed a little bit nerfed. Now that covers Talent's abilities, all pretty much positives. So let's talk about Covenants. Now Covenants is a little bit of a hit and miss, but I think they are all, to an extent, pretty interesting for a Bloody Guys. I think they are far more interesting abilities to have as a Bloody Guy than as, say, an Unholy or a Frost. So my favorite one, actually, that I really had fun with was actually the Night Fae one, which is a weird Covenant to go for as a DK, but hey. So the Night Fae Covenant is essentially improving your Death and Decay. It's giving you Death's Due. Death's Due is just an empowered Death and Decay. It deals far more damage, but it's also providing you with a buff and a debuff on targets. Every target that is inside of it is going to get a damage reduction buff towards you, and that stacks up to 15%, right? And then in turn, you're going to get Strength, again up to 15%. Now, in Unholy or in Frost, these abilities have a 30-second cooldown, right? And they don't have as a big interaction with the spec as Blood has. So essentially on those specs, this is something that you're going to click with your other cooldowns. It's just another ability that you're going to click. But as Blood, you're going to get this almost constant buff of Strength and this almost constant debuff on the targets of a damage reduction. So obviously, this is probably not tuned, because at this point, with a decent amount of procs, you pretty much can have this 15% strength buff up all the time, and this damage reduction buff up almost all the time. And since they work on ticks, not on the amount of enemies that you have, the ability works perfectly for either multi-target or single target. So again, on one side, it's actually giving even more meaning to Death and Decay. Death and Decay feels really awesome to press with Death's Due, even more than now with providing the buff to Heartstrike. But it's also feeling a little bit too powerful, so it might be overtuned, because I think, having a 15% damage reduction almost all the time and 50% strength almost all the time as well is a little bit too much, especially considering everything else that you already have. So, but be as in may, pretty cool ability. Might change in numbers though. Then we have the Kyrian one, the Bastion one, which is Shackled the Unworthy. Now, Shackled the Unworthy is much similar to Death's Due, but is single target only. So essentially, you're gonna place a dot, and this dot will deal damage, but as you spend runes, the cooldown is gonna get reduced to a point that with haste and stuff like that, with gear, you're gonna get it up almost all the time as well, just like Death's Due. Now, on top of damage, you're also getting a 5% damage reduction, which is pretty good. But the issue here is that when you compare it to Death's Due, which works in multi-target and single target, and it's providing much bigger numbers, there's really no comparison. I mean, the Nightfall one is so much more powerful. And then you have the Venthyr one. Okay, this one is Swarming Mists, deals damage all around you, so cool, another AoE ability, and it's providing runic power. Okay, cool, it's 15. It's not that much, it's not that impressive, especially when you compare it to the buffs that the Nightfall one is providing. It's also giving you 10% dodge, which is not a huge deal again. Then you have the Maldraxxus one. It's super cool. It's giving you damage all around you, much like Swarming Mists, and you're getting a grip. So every 2 seconds, as the ability is up, it's gonna grip a target, a random target. That is very cool. It's very cool to see. It's awesome to use. The problem with it is that it takes so much time to actually grip the targets, like every 2 seconds. Like I think it's like 4 or 5 targets that is gonna grip in total. By the time the buff ends, you're gonna have all the enemies in your grasp, right? I think in the end, it's not gonna be all that interesting. It's cool, but when you really think about it, when you actually put it in practice, it's not that a big of a deal, right? Especially, again, comparing to the Nightveil one. So overall, Covenant abilities, again, are a hit and miss. You have some pretty cool stuff, some which is a little bit weird on numbers, it feels way too powerful, some which are interesting, but in practice could be a little bit better. But again, just like Unholy and Frost, we're still missing a lot of stuff in Covenants like Soulbinds and stuff like that, but as it stands, these are the states of it in Blood. So overall, Blood Decay is just looking awesome throughout. You get more decisions to make with Rune Tap and Blood Tap, you're getting more decisions to make as well in your talents, and by the way, Rune Tap is out of the GCD, which is fantastic. Blizzard actually changed that just a few days ago in the latest build. And then on top of this, you're getting all these new crazy abilities, and I actually forgot, our Rune Forges are actually getting some decision making as well. So we're now getting a Spell Warding, which is providing extra defense towards spells. We're getting Sanguination, which is providing more healing towards our Death Strike. We then getting the Stone Skin Gargoyle, which is providing physical defense, and we're getting Fallen Crusader, which is a strength. So again, just like our talents, just like our general gameplay, which has a lot of choices now, a lot of decisions to make, we now also have a couple of decisions to make towards our Rune Forges. So overall, Blood Decay just got me all excited. It is an awesome spec in Shadowlands, seemingly. It's just an improved BFA version, which is all that I could ask for. So I'll keep a track of it, see if anything changes, but as it stands, pretty awesome. A big seal of approval. Alright guys, that pretty much covers it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.